I'm going to do a response to a video that made some claims pertaining to my video to BitButter and my having not responded to various comments under other videos. I think, first of all, let me deal with the comment part first. After a decent amount of time, I finally stopped even looking at the comments that were put under old posts. I mean, most of my atheist ones are rather old. And so, because of the various things I was doing, I really didn't take much time to even look at them. No offense. I mean, if somebody wants to go ahead and leave a comment, that's perfectly fine. But I'm not duty-bound to respond, and so I didn't. And to be brutally, to be really honest, I don't remember. I mean, I may have responded to you before on something, but I don't really remember you at all. So it wasn't intentional. Let's put it that way. It wasn't intentional. It was nothing against you, and I certainly wasn't avoiding the topic at hand. The reason for my smarmy remarks about BitButter is that, see, BitButter has done this for some time, and certain things get rather old, okay? When somebody continually, intentionally misrepresents what you say on a continual basis, see, here's the tactic. You get smoked one time, okay? Then you get smoked a second time. Then you get smoked a third time. And then a long time goes by, and you may think you have a point on something. And then when you do think you have a point on something, or when enough time's gone by, you ignore all the issues you got smoked on. So instead of changing your position and doing the intellectually honest thing, you go ahead and you keep propounding the exact same fables you did before. And I think that that's intellectually dishonest, and I don't think it's good to do. I think it's bad for anybody. I think it's bad for him. I think it's bad for his viewers. You made a comment saying that I've been claiming the atheists can't show how uniformity of nature or logic can be trusted. That's only in part. My claim is that if the atheist worldview is true, if it's true, then they can't even account for its existence. Okay, so it's a little bit more than trusted. We acknowledge, and both of us would readily admit, for the most part, that these two things exist. I mean, most of them would say, well, yeah, of course logic exists. And most of them would like to say that there is some degree of uniformity of nature. So, given that, I say you can't account for, or you can't explain how it should be trusted. I think it should be readily demonstrated by what BitButter said. It could change, the very law of uniformity could change next month. And if it could change next month, then it could change tomorrow. It could change right now, as I'm talking. All of a sudden, uniformity of nature just doesn't work anymore. And he's at least being consistent, to some degree, with the internal components of his worldview. And so, yeah, of course I make those claims. Of course I do. But you've only got half the story. You said that I live in a world of miracles, and, any time, in any random way, and no way we can predict these things, that all of a sudden miracles are going to happen. And that I live in this world, and that you don't. Okay, well, the thing is that if we live in a world where the Christian worldview is true, then we both live in that world. It doesn't matter what you think, that world would exist. If we live in a world as you would describe, and as you actually kind of beg the question here, then yeah, we would live in a world where there's no miracles, but that has yet to be proven by you guys. So you kind of just presume that to be the case, and it would have been better if you were to say that in my understanding of life, I would move and live and have my being in a world that I think would have miraculous events, but in fact would just be events that I may not be able to describe. That may have been a better way of saying it, but the way you said it wasn't any good. You give us some miracles here, and the litany of miracles you gave, the axe head floating in the water, walking on water, people getting up out of the graves, people being raised from the dead, even though that has happened even in our day and age. The idea with the rib of Adam, although your retelling of the story is a little bit different than Scripture would recall it, but I think that that's something definitely worth talking about. So let's deal with those things. Let's deal with the concept of the miraculous. You wanted me to talk about it? That's fine. Let's do it. What I find unfortunate is the atheists typically begin right off the bat with anti-supernaturalism, which is, I mean, that's at least being consistent with their worldview. But they begin with that, and they say that, well, of course, miracles can't exist because I presume naturalism or anti-supernaturalism, and so, you know, obviously miracles can't exist, and because miracles can't exist, then that means the Bible's wrong and everything else, and so the Christian worldview is a bunch of nonsense. Of course, the entire time they've begged the question. They haven't demonstrated that their naturalist worldview can account for a number of things, which I've talked about in other videos, and which they still to this day can't account for. I think it's unfortunate also that atheists tend to see miracles as supernatural intrusions into this closed and self-perpetuating system that they refer to as nature. And so when they hear that we believe in miracles, they believe that our concept of the natural is the same as theirs, and so it's just simply we're adding to their view of nature this concept of the supernatural, when that's not the case at all. We're actually presupposing that we live in a supernatural world where this is just part and parcel. It's not an intrusion. Actually, we would say that these aren't violations in any way of nature. These are just ways that God expresses His providence in a more direct and immediate fashion. And so they don't even understand how we view miracles. They don't even understand that. They don't understand how we view nature. And they just presume that we believe the same, you know, concept of nature as being closed, with the exception of the intruding miracle. And it's simply false, and it just shows that they're not doing their homework. As I said before, God occasionally will work in a manner that's more direct and immediate. But, you know, the immediate exercise of God, I think it was Bonson, is one of the presuppositionalists, said it the best, talking about how the immediate exercise of God's will is only relative. It's only relatively distinguished, at least by us. Lastly, he makes a claim, and his argument only works if he supposes that God in any way acts arbitrarily. And that if God acts in any way, that His providence is in such a fashion that He just, you know, for whatever reason, no reason other than just, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and do this, whoop, and go ahead and do it to you. If that's how God works, then yeah, sure. It would be absolutely crazy for us to believe that. But the thing is, you know, obviously he's not very familiar with our position concerning God and concerning God's will, concerning God's providence, how He relates to mankind, concerning the role of miracles, signs, omens, and powers, etc., in the function of salvation history in mankind. I've said this before, but I want to say this again. This is common amongst atheists. By and large, what we have amongst atheists is an aliteracy. Okay, they refuse to read books by Christian authors pertaining to these matters and doctrines. And it's not the same with most presuppositionalists. Most presuppositionalists and most Christian apologists are very familiar with books written by atheists and any form of non-believer, and many other religions for that matter. And so we strive not to be illiterate. But it's quite obvious through the videos that have been posted numerous times over, not just this one but others, that their understanding of our doctrines, their understanding of our position, and even the fact that those answers can be readily available by people far more qualified than me, and it only takes just a moment to find it, it shows that they have a high degree of literacy. They just refuse to actually study and do their homework on the matter. That's it. And so I encourage them, stop being intellectually lazy.